1 second, he was walking through the storm. The next, his knees buckled, and he hit the sidewalk hard. His body convulsed. Rain hammered his face like fists. No movement. Nothing. But here's the thing. Dr. James Mitchell hadn't answered his phone in 47 minutes. 12 board members were searching Portland's industrial district. They'd called hospitals, police stations, even the mayor's office. $200 million hung in the balance. One emergency vote. One missing signature. Now he was dying on a flooded sidewalk 6 blocks from Riley's diner. And inside that diner, a waitress named Lizzy Bennett stood frozen at the Rain Streak window. She'd worked 2 shifts, 17 hours straight. Her daughter, Sophie, needed her home by midnight. She had $394.67 in her bank account. Rent was due in 9 days, but the man outside was turning blue. Before I tell you what happened next, answer me this. Could you run into a hurricane knowing it might cost you everything? Could you save a stranger's life, even if that stranger destroyed yours 3 years ago? Drop your answer below. Be honest and hit subscribe right now, because what this single mom pulled from that storm, what 12 board members missed, it will leave you speechless. This isn't just a rescue story. It's about invisible people, buried secrets, and the moment when staying safe becomes more dangerous than risking everything. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead inside Riley's diner. The coffee smell, dark, bitter, mixed with bacon grease that had soaked into every surface over decades. The storm outside sounded like fists pounding glass. Each gust rattled the windows in their frames. Lizzy Bennett watched through the rain-streaked window as the man hit the pavement. Other pedestrians hurried past, hunched against the wind, heads down, eyes forward. Nobody stopped. The rain came sideways in sheets that turned the street into a river. Her manager, Eddie, appeared at her shoulder. Not our problem, Lizzy. Guy's probably drunk. She didn't look at him. Couldn't take her eyes off the figure on the ground. 3 more hours, Eddie continued. You walk out that door during your shift, don't come back. Through the distorted glass, she could see the man's expensive charcoal suit soaked black. Italian leather shoes. A watch that caught the streetlight even through the rain. Rolex. Maybe Patek Philippe. His lips were gray-blue. The color of hypothermia. The color of death approaching. Inside her head, 3 voices battled for control. Voice 1, survival. You lose this shift, you lose $67 in tips. Sophie needs new shoes. The electricity bill has a disconnect notice. You're already $1,492 short on rent, with 9 days to pay. Voice 2, maternal instinct. What if that was Sophie out there? What if she needed someone and everyone walked past? Voice 3, her mother's ghost. Stubborn Grace, baby girl. We do the right thing even when it costs us everything. Her hands moved before her brain caught up. She grabbed the emergency blanket from the first aid kit mounted by the kitchen. Her threadbare coat from the break room hook. The coat she bought from Goodwill 3 years ago. The one with the broken zipper she'd never had money to fix. Eddie's voice rose. Lizzy, I'm serious. You walk out that door during shift, that's it. You're done. She turned to look at him. Really look at him. Eddie Morris, Vietnam veteran with a permanently skeptical expression and 0 tolerance for what he called drama. No, she said. 2 words. Resignation and defiance mixed together. She pushed through the door. The wind hit her like a fist. Rain stung her face like needles. She couldn't hear her own breathing over the roar of the storm. The emergency blanket ripped from her hands immediately, tumbling down the street like a silver ghost. Her threadbare coat was useless within seconds. Soaked through. The cold penetrated to her bones. 50 feet. That's how far she had to go. It felt like 50 miles. The rain was horizontal now, driven by wind gusts that must have been hitting 65 miles per hour. Visibility dropped to 20 feet. The temperature had plummeted to 38 degrees and was still falling. Her Waitress shoes, cheap non-slip things from Walmart, offered no traction on the slick pavement. Each step was a negotiation with gravity. She reached him and dropped to her knees in shin-deep flooding. The water was ice-cold. It soaked through her uniform pants instantly. But she barely noticed because she was already assessing him with skills she wasn't supposed to have anymore. Pulse. Rapid, thready, approximately 120 beats per minute. Respirations. Shallow, maybe 28 per minute. Skin, gray-blue, lips cyanotic. Pupils. Responsive, but sluggish when she pried open one eyelid. Temperature. Severely hypothermic. Body shivering violently in the last desperate attempt to generate heat. Her diagnosis formed instantly, automatically. Severe hypothermia, possible cardiac stress, maybe 20 minutes before complete system shutdown. Sir, she shook a shoulder. Sir, can you hear me? His eyes fluttered open, unfocused, glassy. Hospital meeting important. Then he was gone again, consciousness slipping away like water through fingers. Lizzy yanked her phone from her pocket. The screen was already wet, fighting her cold fingers. She dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Man collapsed on Burnside Avenue, corner of 28th. Severe hypothermia. He's unconscious. Breathing shallow. I need an ambulance now. Ma'am, all ambulances are delayed due to the storm. Multiple accidents. Response time is 45 to 60 minutes for your location. Lizzy looked down at the man. His shivering had started to slow. That was bad. That meant his body was giving up the fight. He doesn't have 60 minutes, she said. He has maybe 20. Ma'am, we're doing our best. She hung up, her right knee, the one she'd injured 2 years ago when she fell carrying groceries up 4 flights of stairs after her car was repossessed, screamed in protest as she tried to stand. Mental calculation running automatically. Hospital 6 blocks north. He weighs maybe 190 pounds. I weigh 128. Uphill, in hurricane winds, with a blown knee. Voice 1 survival. This is insane. You'll both die. Wait for the ambulance. Voice 2 medical knowledge. Ambulance arrives in 45 minutes. He's dead in 20. Move him or lose him. Voice 3. Her mother's voice. Don't you ever let fear make you small. Physical sensation flooded through her. Her body moving before her mind could stop it. The way her mother had taught her. Trust your training. Trust your instincts. Trust that doing the right thing is its own compass. She got down close to his face. I'm going to help you walk. You need to try. Can you try? A groan. Maybe understanding. Maybe just pain. She worked her shoulder under his arm, wrapped her other arm around his waist, and pulled. His weight against her felt like carrying a refrigerator. Her right knee buckled immediately. White-hot pain shot through the joint, tendons threatening to snap. But she didn't fall. She took one step, then another. Behind her, through the rain and wind, she could see Riley's diner glowing warm. Eddie in the window, arms crossed, watching. Other customers had gathered too, faces pressed to the glass. Nobody else came out. In that moment, Lizzy Bennett made a choice. Not a hero's choice, not a saint's choice. Just the choice her mother had taught her was the only one worth making. We do the right thing even when it costs us everything. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't need to check it. She already knew it was Eddie. You're fired. The storm howled. The man's weight dragged her down. Her knee threatened to give out with every step. 6 blocks to go. And the night was just beginning. The alarm pierced the darkness like a knife. Lizzy's hand shot out, slapping the digital clock before her brain fully woke. The red numbers glowed. 5 a.m., October 23rd. She lay still for 30 seconds, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. It was shaped like Texas. She'd spent so many sleepless nights looking at that stain that she'd memorized every border, every discolored edge. The studio apartment in Portland's Lents neighborhood was barely 400 square feet. Venetian blinds, missing 3 slats. Sophie's sleeping bag on an air mattress because the twin bed frame had broken 2 months ago, and Lizzy hadn't had $89 to replace it. The morning ritual began. Mental calculation, automatic as breathing. $394.67 in account. Rent due November 1st. $1,200. Sophie's medication co-pays this month. $340. Electricity bill past due. $287 with disconnect notice. Mrs. Patterson's babysitting. $15 per hour, minimum 4 hours per night shift. Tonight's shift means $60. Total shortfall. $1,492.33 needed. 9 days to find it. Her right knee ached as she swung her legs out of bed. The old injury from 2 years ago when she'd fallen carrying groceries up 4 flights after her car got repossessed. Some days it was just a dull throb. Other days it was a sharp reminder of how close to the edge she lived. Today it was somewhere in between. She moved quietly through the dark apartment. Sophie was still asleep. Dark hair spread across the pillow. 7 years old. 3 years in remission. Every day, a gift Lizzy had fought and bled and gone into crushing debt to secure. Lizzy kissed her daughter's forehead. Temperature check. A cancer survivor mother habit she couldn't break even 3 years post-remission. Normal. Good. She left a note on the makeshift kitchen counter. Good morning, baby girl. I love you to the moon. Mrs. Patterson will make you breakfast. Be good at school. Tell me about your day tonight. Love, Mom. Hand-drawn heart. The little things mattered when you couldn't afford the big things. Before leaving, she opened the drawer beside the microwave. Medical bills stacked thick enough to kill someone if you hit them with it. At the top, one specific letter. Insurance denial. Dated 3 years ago. She didn't need to read it. She'd memorized every word. But her eyes found the signature anyway. They always did. Dr. James Mitchell, consulting physician. The man who decided her daughter's life wasn't worth the cost. Lizzy closed the drawer. She hadn't looked at his name in 4 months. Didn't need the rage anymore. It didn't pay rent. It didn't keep Sophie healthy. It was just dead weight. And she had enough of that already. She grabbed her coat, threadbare, broken zipper, and stepped into the Portland darkness. The bus arrived at 5:47 a.m., exactly on schedule. Lizzy knew the schedule by heart. Had to. Every minute mattered when you worked 2 jobs. She climbed aboard. The usual crowd. Night shift nurses heading home. Construction workers heading to sites. Early morning janitors. Her people. The invisible labor that kept the city running while everyone else slept. The salt water smell from the harbor mixed with jasmine blooming over garden walls. Church bells rang from St. Mary's Cathedral. Portland waking up, stretching, not yet aware of the storm that was coming. A woman across the aisle coughed. Wet, productive, 3 times in succession. Lizzy's mind cataloged automatically. Possible pneumonia. Check for fever. Listen for wheezing. She caught herself. Stop the diagnostic cascade. Not a nurse. Never was. Just a waitress. But her fingers had already twitched unconsciously. Muscle memory she couldn't erase. The ghost of who she'd been before Sophie's diagnosis, before medical debt, before the world had taught her that dreams were luxuries poor people couldn't afford. She'd been pre-med. 2 years at Portland State. Top of her class. Before everything fell apart. The bus dropped her at Burnside and 28th at 6:12 a.m. Riley's Diner sat on the corner like it had for 62 years. Chrome-sided relic with red vinyl booths patched with duct tape and Formica countertops worn smooth by decades of elbows. Home. Well, work, which was the closest thing to home she had anymore. Marcus the trucker was already at the counter when she unlocked the door at 6 a.m. sharp. Usual Lizzy? She was already pouring his coffee before he finished asking. Dark roast, 2 sugars, no cream. She knew what he wanted before he did. 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast dry, hash browns extra crispy. Orange juice no pulp, she said, handing him a coffee. Marcus grinned. You never write it down. How do you do that? Practice. She smiled. Lots of practice. But it wasn't practice. It was the same brain that had memorized anatomy textbooks, pharmacology charts, surgical procedures. The brain that could have been a doctor's brain if life had been kinder. Within the first hour, she'd taken 8 orders without writing anything down. Delivered them perfectly. Diane, the night nurse from the hospital 6 blocks away. Short stack, side of bacon crispy, coffee black. Tommy, the line cook's daughter, visiting on her birthday. Belgian waffle, strawberries, whipped cream, chocolate milk. The elderly couple who came every Wednesday. 2 scrambled, whole wheat toast, decaf coffee for him. Earl Grey tea for her, extra honey. Competency bleeding through in ways she couldn't hide. But nobody noticed. Service workers were supposed to be invisible. And invisible meant safe. At 9:47 a.m., Gerald came in. Elderly regular, same table. Same order every day. Eggs Benedict, hash browns, coffee light, and sweet. But today his hands shook more than usual. Lizzy noticed it immediately. Tremor in both hands. Slight facial droop on the left side. Speech slightly slurred when he ordered. Warning signs. Tia. Possible pre-stroke. She approached carefully after delivering his food. Crouched beside his table, so she was at eye level, not looming. Gerald, you feeling okay? You seem a little off today. He waved her away. Fine. Just tired. I really think you should see your doctor today. Just a checkup? Please. He looked at her, really looked at her, and must have seen something in her eyes that made him listen. You think it's serious? I think it's worth getting checked. Today. 2 weeks later, he came back, grabbed her hand at the counter. Early stage, stroke caught in time. Treatable. You saved my life noticing that. Lizzy didn't take credit. Changed the subject. Refilled his coffee. Because taking credit meant questions. Questions meant visibility. Visibility meant someone might dig into who she used to be. And who she used to be was dangerous. During her break, Lizzy opened her locker in the back room. Inside, photo of her in hospital scrubs from 6 years ago. Pre-med student doing clinical rotation at Portland Metropolitan Hospital. Younger, hopeful, whole. Beside it, dog-eared anatomy textbook she still studied at 2 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come. And tucked in the back, expired hospital ID badge. Portland Metro Clinical Volunteer Program. Expired 3 years ago, 1 month after Sophie's diagnosis. 2 weeks after Lizzy had dropped out to work full-time. She touched the ID badge. Just for a second. Then closed the locker. At 1:47 p.m., Eddie handed her the cash tips. $67.40. Good morning, Lizzy. She took it. Folded the bills. Did the math in her head. $67.40 today. Need $1,492.33 total. Evening shift at catering company pays $85 for 6 hours. Tomorrow's Riley's shift averages $70. Sunday double shift, $140. Still $1,130 short. Her phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Patterson. Sophie's teacher called. Field trip permission slip. Needs $20. Due Friday. New calculation. $1,150 short. Eddie leaned against the counter. You want to pick up Saturday overnight? Double pay. $16 an hour plus tips. She accepted before he finished the sentence. Yeah, I'll take it. He nodded. Didn't comment on the exhaustion in her voice. Didn't ask why a 32-year-old woman was working herself into the ground. That was the thing about places like Riley's. Everyone had a story. Nobody asked. The catering shift started at 5:52 p.m. Corporate event downtown. Lizzy in a different uniform, serving champagne to people who spent more on dinner than she made in a month. At 7:34 p.m., a businessman started choking on shrimp. Everyone froze, except Lizzy. She was moving before anyone else reacted. Heimlich maneuver. Textbook perfect. 5 abdominal thrusts. The shrimp dislodged. The man gasped air, face red but breathing. Security guards stared at her. You some kind of EMT? Took a first aid course once, Lizzy lied. Long time ago. She returned to serving champagne like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just saved someone's life, with skills she wasn't supposed to have. At 8:35 p.m., her phone buzzed. Eddie. Sarah called in sick. Can you cover till midnight? Lizzy calculated. Mrs. Patterson overtime. $15 per hour after 9 p.m. 3 hours equals $45. But shift tips average $25 per hour equals $75 total. Net gain, $30. I'll do it. Text from Sophie. Mommy, when you coming home, I miss you. Lizzy's heart broke, like it did every night. Soon, baby. I love you so much. She walked back into Riley's diner at 8:47 p.m., grabbed the coffee pot, started refilling cups, and that's when she saw him, through the rain-streaked window. The man in the expensive suit, walking, stumbling, falling, collapsing on the sidewalk 6 blocks from Salvation. And every choice she'd made, every sacrifice, every compromise, every moment of invisible endurance had led to this single moment. The moment when staying safe would cost her everything she believed about who she was. 3 hours before collapse, Dr. James Mitchell sat in his office on the top floor of Portland Metropolitan Hospital, watching the city prepare for the storm. Floor-to-ceiling windows, mahogany desk, framed degrees from Johns Hopkins and Harvard Medical, photos on the credenza, his late wife Rebecca, smiling in a way that made the picture hurt to look at. 8 years gone. The grief hadn't faded. It had just learned to hide better. He was 58 years old. Tom Ford suit, perfectly tailored. Italian leather shoes. $40,000 Patek Philippe watch that had belonged to his father. The uniform of success. But his hands trembled slightly when he reached for his coffee, and his eyes, behind the expensive frames, were hollow, exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. At 5:15 p.m., Mitchell left his office and headed to the hospital cafeteria. Board meeting in an hour. He needed food, though he had no appetite. In the cafeteria line, an elderly woman struggled with her tray, walker making it impossible to carry anything. Mitchell didn't hesitate. Let me help you with that, ma'am. He took her tray, carried it to her table, pulled out her chair. Genuine warmth in his voice. My mother had one of those walkers. I know how tricky they can be. The woman smiled, thanked him, mentioned her daughter was a nurse here. Mitchell sat with her for 5 minutes, asked about her daughter, listened to her stories, didn't check his watch once. A nurse at the next table leaned toward her colleague. Dr. Mitchell's one of the good ones, always has time for people. And he was, in moments like this. But people are complicated. Good people do terrible things. Kind people make cruel decisions. And Dr. James Mitchell carried 3 ghosts that wouldn't let him sleep. At 6:15 p.m., Mitchell entered the boardroom. 12 people around a mahogany table. The Mitchell-Hartley Medical Foundation Board. $200 million on the table from Hong Kong investors. One signature needed. His signature. Richard Stern, the CFO, looked stressed. Hong Kong delegation lands at 11:30 p.m. They want signatures tonight. Tomorrow the exchange rate changes. Deal's off. Dr. Sarah Abrams, Mitchell's colleague and closest thing to a friend, studied him. James, you look exhausted. When's the last time you slept? Sleep's overrated. He smiled. Deflection mastered over years. Let's focus on the foundation. Because focusing on work meant not focusing on the thing that was eating him alive from inside. Rebecca's absence. The empty house. The daughter he'd never had. The legacy that felt more like a burden than a blessing. Work was the drug. Achievement was the high. And he'd been chasing both for 8 years because the alternative was facing the silence. But there was something else Mitchell was running from. 3 years earlier, he'd done something he couldn't undo. In his previous role as an insurance consultant, before he joined the hospital board full-time, insurance companies had paid him $5,000 per day to review medical claims. His job, approve or deny coverage. The companies had a target, 70% denial rate, cost containment, profit margins, shareholder value. And Mitchell had been very good at his job. One case haunted him more than the others. File: Sophie Bennett, age 4, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Experimental treatment request, $187,000. He'd read the file 3 times. The mother's letter was attached. Desperate, detailed. She'd written about her daughter's favorite color, purple. Her laugh. Her dream of being a veterinarian. Mitchell had spent 8 minutes reviewing the case. 8 minutes to decide if a 4-year-old girl deserved to live. The experimental therapy had a 40% 5-year survival rate. Standard treatment, covered by insurance, had a 20% survival rate. But company policy was clear. Experimental therapies exceeded cost-benefit thresholds unless survival probability exceeded 60%. This didn't. Mitchell checked the box marked denied. Signed his name. Dr. James Mitchell, consulting physician. Filed it away. Moved to the next case. 47 cases that week. Sophie Bennett was number 32. He'd left insurance, consulting 6 months later. Couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't look at himself in the mirror. Couldn't carry the weight of the names he didn't remember and the faces he'd never seen. He'd thrown himself into the Mitchell-Hartley Foundation, approving grants, funding research, changing policies, penance disguised as philanthropy. But 3 cases followed him. 3 names that wouldn't let go. Marcus Torres, 6 years old, denied coverage for experimental treatment, died 4 months later. Amanda Chin, 16 years old, denied coverage. Family went bankrupt paying for treatment. She survived, but they lost everything. And Sophie Bennett, 4 years old, denied coverage. Mitchell didn't know if she'd lived or died. He'd been too afraid to find out. At 7:53 p.m., Mitchell left the hospital. The board meeting had run long. The Hong Kong investors would be landing soon. He needed to get home, change clothes, return for signatures. His driver had called in sick. Rare. Mitchell was driving himself. Mercedes S-Class. $120,000, 2 years old. Black leather interior. The smell of expensive cologne and regret. He headed down Burnside Avenue, Industrial District. The rain had started, light drizzle becoming steadier. At 8:12 p.m., his engine sputtered. Check engine light. Then nothing. The Mercedes coasted to a stop. Dead. Mitchell tried the ignition. Nothing. Tried his phone to call roadside assistance. Battery at 12%. The call connected, then dropped. Battery at 4%. Tried again. Dead mid-sentence. Phone black. Useless. He sat in the car. Rain drumming on the roof. Calculated his options. Hospital 6 blocks north. Meeting in 18 minutes. Walking in the rain versus waiting for help. I'll walk it, he decided. 20 minutes max. He didn't realize the storm was about to intensify. Didn't realize the temperature was dropping. Didn't realize his body, weakened by stress, skipped meals, chronic insomnia, was already vulnerable. Mitchell locked the Mercedes and started walking. 3 blocks in, the rain became sheets. The wind picked up. His expensive suit soaked through. For blocks in, he was shivering, breathing harder than he should. The cold penetrating deeper than it should. 5 blocks in, he passed Riley's Diner. glanced through the window, saw a waitress refilling coffee, working people, honest labor. His thought, I respect that. He didn't see her face, didn't recognize her. She was furniture to him, part of the scenery, not malicious, just the blindness that comes with privilege. He'd never worked a service job, never been invisible, never understood what it meant to be the person everyone looks past. This blind spot would cost him everything and save him. 6 blocks in at 8:47 p.m., Dr. James Mitchell's legs gave out. He hit the sidewalk hard, body convulsing, hands clawing at nothing. The expensive watch catching the streetlight one last time. And inside Riley's diner 50 feet away, a waitress he'd never met froze at the window. A waitress whose daughter he'd nearly killed with 8 minutes of careless judgment. A waitress who was about to make a choice that would change both their lives forever. The storm howled, the rain fell, and the universe held its breath. The storm intensified the moment Lizzy stepped outside. Wind speed hit 65 miles per hour in gusts that bent streetlights and sent trash cans tumbling down Burnside like bowling pins. Rain came horizontal, not falling, but attacking. Sheets of water moving sideways with force enough to sting exposed skin. Temperature, 38 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping. Visibility, 20 feet, maybe less. The emergency blanket she'd grabbed ripped from her hands immediately, tumbling away into the darkness like a silver ghost. Her threadbare coat, useless, soaked through in seconds, clung to her body like ice. She couldn't hear her own breathing over the roar. 50 feet to reach him. 50 feet that felt like crossing an ocean. Her cheap Walmart waitress shoes had zero traction on the flooding pavement. Each step was a negotiation. Each movement forward fought against wind, trying to push her back. The rain was so thick she could barely see him until she was 10 feet away. Then she dropped to her knees in shin-deep water. The cold hit her like electricity, ice water soaking through her uniform pants instantly, flooding her shoes, penetrating to bone. But her brain had already shifted into assessment mode, the mode she'd trained for, the mode she'd buried for 3 years. Medical assessment, automatic as breathing, pulse. She pressed 2 fingers to his carotid artery, rapid, thready, approximately 120 beats per minute. Too fast. Body trying desperately to compensate for hypothermia. Respirations, shallow, maybe 28 per minute. Breathing, but barely. Skin, gray blue. The color of profound hypothermia. The color that meant time was running out. She pried open one eyelid. Pupils. Responsive, but sluggish. Delayed reaction. Brain function compromised. Temperature assessment by touch. Severely hypothermic. Body shivering violently. The last desperate attempt to generate heat before the core temperature dropped too low and the shivering stopped. When the shivering stopped, death followed quickly. Her unspoken diagnosis. Severe hypothermia, stage 2 approaching stage 3. Possible cardiac stress. Maybe 20 minutes before complete system shut down. Maybe less. Sir, she shook his shoulder hard. Sir, can you hear me? His eyes fluttered, unfocused, glassy with confusion and cold. Hospital? The word barely formed. Medium important, then nothing. Eyes closing again, consciousness slipping like water through fingers. Lizzy yanked her phone from her pocket, screen wet, fighting her cold fingers. She dialed 911 with shaking hands. 911, what's your emergency? Man collapsed, corner of Burnside and 28th. Severe hypothermia, unconscious. Breathing shallow, rapid pulse. I need an ambulance now. Static on the line. Then, ma'am, all ambulances are delayed due to the storm. Multiple accidents throughout the city. Response time is 45 to 60 minutes for your location. Lizzy looked down at the man, His shivering had started to slow. His lips were darker blue than 30 seconds ago. That was bad. That was very bad. When the body stopped shivering, it meant the core temperature had dropped below 90 degrees. It meant the body was giving up. It meant minutes, not hours. He doesn't have 60 minutes, Lizzy said. Her voice steady despite everything. Medical training bleeding through. He has maybe 20. Ma'am, we're doing our best. Stay with him. Keep him as warm as possible. Help is coming. She hung up because help wasn't coming in time. Help was 45 minutes away, and this man would be dead in 20. Her mind raced through options. Nearest building. Office complex, 30 feet away. But the lights were off. Locked. No one inside. Cars passing, none stopping. Drivers hunched over steering wheels, focused on not hydroplaning, not seeing the two people drowning on the sidewalk. Pedestrians. None. Everyone who had any sense was already inside. Hospital, 6 blocks north. Uphill. Portland Metropolitan Hospital. The same hospital where she'd done her clinical rotation 6 years ago, where Sophie had been treated, where she'd once imagined working as a doctor. Mental calculation, brutal and immediate. Hospital 6 blocks north. He weighs maybe 190 pounds. I weigh 128. Uphill terrain, hurricane-force winds, flooding streets, with a knee that's barely holding together. 3 voices in her head, screaming for attention. Voice 1, survival. This is insane. You'll both die. Wait for the ambulance. This isn't your problem. You've already lost your job. Don't lose your life too. Voice 2, medical knowledge. Ambulance arrives in 45 minutes. He's dead in 20. The math is simple. Move him or lose him. You know what hypothermia does. You know how fast it kills. Voice 3, her mother's voice. Don't you ever let fear make you small, Claire Bear. We have healing hands. We use them, even when it costs us everything. Her mother's voice using her childhood nickname. The voice that had taught her everything that mattered. The voice that had been silent for 3 years, but somehow rang clearer now than ever. Lizzy felt her body move before her mind finished the calculation. Decision made, not by logic, by something deeper than logic. She got down close to his face, her lips near his ear, so he might hear her through the storm. I'm going to help you walk. You need to try. Can you try for me? A groan. Maybe understanding. Maybe just pain. She worked her shoulder under his arm, wrapped her other arm around his waist, and pulled with everything she had. His weight against her felt like trying to lift a refrigerator. Her right knee buckled immediately. White-hot pain shooting through the joint like someone had driven a spike through bone. Tendons screaming. The old injury threatening to give out completely. But she didn't fall. She took 1 step. Her knee held. She took another. Behind her, through sheets of rain, she could see Riley's diner. Warm light glowing through fogged windows. Eddie in the doorway now, arms crossed, watching. Other customers had gathered too, faces pressed to glass. Nobody else came out. Nobody else moved. And in that moment, Lizzy understood something she'd never fully grasped before. Heroism isn't special. Heroism is just refusing to be the person who walks past. It's not about being brave. It's about being unable to live with yourself if you don't act. She dragged the man forward. 1 step, then another. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She already knew what it said. Already knew Eddie had followed through on his threat. You're fired. The storm howled. The man's weight threatened to drag her down with every step. Her knee screamed. 6 blocks stretched ahead like 6 miles. And Lizzy Bennett, waitress, single mother, woman with $394.67 in her bank account and rent due in 9 days, began the longest journey of her life. The first block was the worst, because that's when her body realized what she was asking it to do. Fireman's carry was impossible. He was too heavy, her knee too damaged. She settled for half dragging, half supporting him. His arm over her shoulders, her arm around his waist, his feet barely moving, dead weight pulling her toward the ground. The wind tunnel effect on Burnside made every step a battle. Wind hitting them from the side, trying to push them into parked cars. Debris flying, newspaper pages, trash can lids, broken glass sparkling in streetlight before disappearing into darkness. A car hydroplaned past, horn blaring. Get out of the road. The driver didn't stop, didn't slow down. Just anger at the inconvenience of two people dying on his commute. Mitchell's weight increased as he lost consciousness again. Dead weight is always heavier than live weight. His body became an anchor. But Lizzy talked to him, kept him semi-aware, kept herself moving. Stay with me. What's your name? Can you tell me your name? He mumbled something. James, need to sign? That's good, James. Keep talking. Tell me where you need to sign. What's so important? Foundation Children's Hospital Save Lives. Her bitter internal thought flashed. Save lives. That's rich. She didn't know why the bitterness came. Just felt it. Some instinct she couldn't name yet. Some recognition she couldn't place. But she pushed it down. Kept moving. 1 step. 2 steps. 3. Her knee threatened to buckle with each one. She counted steps to keep herself going. Anything to distract from the pain. 20 steps to the corner. You can do 20 steps. Sophie needs you home. 20 steps. They reached the corner. 1 block down. 5 to go. Office building on 27th Avenue. Glass doors. Lights on inside. Shelter. Lizzy half-dragged Mitchell to the doors. Pounded on the glass with her fist. Please. Medical emergency. Please open the door. A security guard appeared behind the glass. Mid-40s, uniformed, arms crossed. He looked at them through the glass. Soaked woman in a waitress uniform. Man in an expensive suit that had seen better days. His calculation was instant and wrong. He saw. Vagrant dragging someone, probably robbing him, probably drugs involved. Definitely not his problem. He cracked the door open. 2 inches. Chain lock engaged. No vagrants. Move along. He's dying. Lizzy's voice cracked. Hypothermia. Let us in until the ambulance. I said move along. His voice harder now. Don't make me call the cops. Call them. Call them right now. This man needs help. But the guard was already closing the door, locking it, walking away, through the glass. Lizzy watched him return to his desk, sit down, pick up his phone. Not to call for help. To call someone about the situation he'd just handled. Lizzy's rage flashed white hot. You're killing him. But the guard didn't turn around. Didn't care. Following protocol. Protecting property. Not his problem. She felt Mitchell's pulse against her shoulder. Weaker than before. Breathing more shallow. No time for anger. Only time for moving. She turned back into the storm. 27th to 26th Avenue. The incline increased. Every step became exponentially harder. Her body was breaking down in real time. Right knee. Buckling every 3rd step. Pain shooting through the joint like lightning. Left shoulder. Screaming from supporting his weight. Muscle fibers tearing. Core muscles shaking. Barely able to keep them both upright. His condition. Consciousness fading completely. Weight becoming pure dead weight. Pulse weakening. Breathing turning to shallow gasps. A flashback hit her sudden visceral. 2 years ago. Same meat buckling. Carrying groceries up 4 flights of stairs. Car repossessed. Can't afford to be injured. Falling. Groceries scattering. Sitting on those stairs crying because she couldn't afford to be hurt. Couldn't afford to be weak. Couldn't afford to be human. The memory gave her strength. Somehow. Because she'd survived that. She'd survived everything. She could survive this. Not again, she whispered to herself. Not now. Move. She talked to keep them both going. Her voice and his consciousness linked by invisible thread. I have a daughter. Sophie. She's 7. She needs me home by midnight. So you need to help me, James. You need to walk. Just a little. Help me help you. Tell me about your meeting. Why is it so important? What lives are you saving? His mumbled response came in fragments. Foundation Children's Hospital, research grants, experimental treatments. The words hit her like ice water. Experimental treatments. Something clicked in her brain. Some connection she couldn't quite make. But she felt it. Recognition hovering just out of reach. She looked at his face as they passed under a streetlight. Rain streaming down his features. Gray-blue lips. But something familiar in the bone structure. The jawline. The shape of his eyes. Where have I seen this face? 26th to 25th Avenue. Brief shelter under an overpass. 30 seconds to catch her breath. She propped Mitchell against the concrete wall. Checked his pulse. Still there. Early. The street light illuminated his face more clearly. She studied him. Really looked at him. Something nagged at her. Something important. His watch caught the light. Patek Philippe. She'd been right. Probably $40,000 minimum. The watch alone cost more than her annual rent. It caught on her sleeve as she repositioned him. The metal cold against her wrist. Money. This man has money. Designer suit. Italian shoes. Expensive watch. Someone important. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out with numb fingers. Text from Eddie. Don't bother coming back. You're fired. She read it. Felt nothing. Deleted it. Didn't matter now. Nothing mattered except the next block. The next step. Her phone buzzed again. Mrs. Patterson. Lizzy, it's 9:15. Sophie's getting worried. When will you be home? She couldn't answer that. Didn't know the answer. She put the phone away. Pulled Mitchell up again. Back into the storm. 2 more blocks. Just 2 more blocks. 25th to 23rd Avenue. Hospital entrance just ahead. So close. Miles away. Her body was shutting down. Knees buckling with every step. Vision tunneling from exhaustion and cold. Arms numb. The pain had transcended pain. Become something else entirely. Some state beyond sensation. His body failing simultaneously. Breathing reduced to shallow gasps. Pulse barely detectable when she checked. His weight pure dead weight now, no help at all. She counted steps to keep herself conscious. 1, 2, 3. Don't stop. 4, 5, 6. Sophie needs you home. 7, 8, 9. Mom taught you not to quit. 10. She visualized Sophie's face. Her dark hair. Her brown eyes. Her smile. The life she'd fought so hard to save. If you can fight for her life, you can fight for his. Whoever he is, whatever he's done, you can fight. Final 50 feet. She couldn't walk anymore. She crawled, literally dragging him now. Dignity gone. Pride gone. Everything stripped away except the animal determination to reach that door. Rain pounding. Thunder cracking. Her hands clawing at pavement. His body dragging behind her. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. The automatic doors, sensed them, slid open. Warm air hit her face like a blessing. She dragged him across the threshold and collapsed. They hit the marble floor together. Both soaked. Both hypothermic. Both barely conscious. Security rushed over. Nurses from the ER. Our nurse Beverly. Ma'am, you can't just drag people. But Lizzy was already speaking. Medical terminology flooding out despite her exhaustion, despite her fear, despite everything. Hypothermia. Severe. Stage 2 approaching stage 3. Pulse thready. Approximately 90 beats per minute. Respirations shallow. Approximately 20 per minute. Core temperature critically low. Needs warming protocols immediately. Heated blankets, warm for fluids. Monitor for cardiac arrhythmias. He's been down for approximately 45 minutes. Beverly froze. Stared at her. How do you? Just help him. Lizzy's voice cracked. Too exhausted to hide her knowledge. Too exhausted to care. please. The medical team swarmed Mitchell. Didn't recognize him yet. He was soaked, hypothermic, in the wrong context. Just another emergency. They worked with practiced efficiency. Warming blankets. For lines. Heart monitor. Blood pressure cuff. Lizzy sat against the wall, shaking, soaked, knees swollen to twice its normal size, watching them work. And in that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Pride. She'd done it. Against every logical reason not to. Against her own self-interest. Against fear and pain and common sense. She'd saved him. She didn't know who he was yet. Didn't know what he'd done. Didn't know that saving his life would destroy and rebuild her own. She just knew she'd made the only choice she could live with. The rest would come later. The moment of recognition came in pieces. A resident removed Mitchell's watch to check his pulse at the wrist. The Patek Philippe caught the fluorescent light. Another nurse leaned in, wiped rain from his face with gauze, got a clear look at his features. She gasped, "Wait, this is, oh my God, this is Dr. Mitchell. This is Dr. James Mitchell." The ER erupted. Someone paged Dr. Abrams immediately. "Get the board. He's been missing for 2 hours." Security Chief Williams came running, radio squawking. "We've had 12 people searching the entire city." Lizzy watched from her place against the wall, confused, cold seeping into her bones, brain struggling to process. "Doctor? He's a doctor?" Beverly, the ER nurse, approached her with a blanket. "Miss, are you injured? Let me check your vitals." Lizzy, deflected, pulled the blanket tighter. "I'm fine. Just cold. Is he going to be okay?" A doctor emerged from the treatment area. Older gray-haired kind eyes. "He'll survive. 30 more minutes, and we'd have been coding him. You saved his life." The question came immediately inevitable. "How did you get him here?" "He's nearly 200 pounds. 6 blocks in that storm." Lizzy's mind raced. Calculated. What to say, what not to say. I dragged him, carried him. I don't really remember clearly. Lies mixed with truth. She remembered every agonizing step. But admitting that meant admitting capability. Capability meant questions. Questions meant danger. Hospital PR appeared. Young woman, tablet in hand, professional smile. "Ma'am, what's your name? We'd like to document this. Thank you properly." Panic flared. Lizzy stood despite her niece screaming. "I need to go. My daughter. Just a few questions. You're a hero. We'd like to." "No." Lizzy backed toward the exit. "No photos. No names. I just helped someone. That's all. Anyone would have done the same." Dr. Sarah Abrams appeared, Mitchell's colleague, board member, the woman who'd asked about him in the boardroom hours ago. She looked at Lizzy with something like, "Oh, please." Dr. Abrams said gently, "At least let's thank you properly. We can cover your medical expenses, get you a taxi home, dry clothes." Lizzy caught her reflection in the glass doors. Soaked waitress uniform clinging to her. Name tag still pinned crookedly. Lizzy. Realization hit. They can find me if they want. Riley's Diner. Eddie will tell them. I'm not invisible anymore. The thought terrified her more than the storm had. But Dr. Abrams' kindness was genuine. And Lizzy was so cold, so tired. Sophie was safe with Mrs. Patterson for another hour. She could accept this much. "Okay," she whispered. "Just no photos. Please." They gave her dry scrubs from the supply room, warm blankets, terrible hospital coffee that tasted like heaven, a phone charger. Her phone came to life. Texts flooded in. "Eddie, you're fired. Don't come back. Mrs. Patterson. Lizzy, it's 10:30. Sophie's getting worried. Sophie. Mommy, please come home." The financial calculation updated in her head. Lost $67 in tips tonight. Lost entire job at Riley's. $1,847 monthly income. Rent due in 9 days. $1,200. Electricity Disconnect. 3 days. Medical bills. $287. Impossible now. All impossible. But Mitchell was alive. Her mother's voice echoed. We do the right thing even when it costs us everything. She texted Sophie. On my way, baby. I love you so much. Something happened tonight. I'll tell you tomorrow. As she sat in the waiting area, warming up, a memory hit her. Sudden, visceral. 3 years ago. Portland Metropolitan Hospital. Different waiting room. Different waiting. Oncologist's voice. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. We caught it early. Standard treatment protocol has 20% 5-year survival rate. Lizzy's voice desperate. What about experimental treatments? Better odds? Oncologist. There's a promising trial at OHSU, but insurance rarely covers experimental therapy. It's expensive. Lizzy filed the paperwork, included a letter, poured her heart onto the page. My daughter is my whole world. This treatment is her best chance. Please. I'm begging you. Please. 6 weeks later, the denial letter arrived. Official letterhead. Cold, bureaucratic language. And at the bottom, a signature. Dr. James Mitchell, consulting physician. She'd stared at that signature for hours. Memorized the loops and curves. The confident stroke of someone who made life and death decisions in 8 minutes and never thought about them again. She'd thought, some doctor I'll never meet just decided my daughter's life wasn't worth the cost. She'd launched a GoFundMe, begged on social media, took a predatory loan at 18% interest, sold everything she owned, worked 3 jobs, degraded herself in ways she'd never tell Sophie, raised $187,000 over 4 months, got Sophie the treatment. Sophie survived, entered remission. Lizzy entered $43,000 in debt that would follow her forever. The memory faded. Lizzy sat in the warm hospital, holding bad coffee, wearing borrowed scrubs. She still didn't connect it. The name James Mitchell was common. She hadn't seen his face clearly in the storm. Just rain-soaked, hypothermic, dying. She didn't know his full name yet. Didn't know his position. Didn't know she just saved the life of the man who'd nearly killed her daughter. That revelation was still coming. But something in her gut twisted. Some instinct. Some buried recognition trying to surface. She pushed it down. Too tired. Too cold. Too broken. She just wanted to go home. Lizzy just made a choice that destroyed her financial stability. She lost her job. She's $1,492 short on rent with 9 days to pay. She has a 7-year-old daughter who depends on her, and she doesn't even know yet who she saved. Before we continue, I need you to decide. Was she right to sacrifice everything for a stranger? Or should she have stayed inside where it was safe? Your answer reveals something about your relationship with power and compassion. Drop it below. And make sure you're subscribed, because what happens when Lizzy discovers Dr. Mitchell's identity? It's calculated, devastating, and completely unexpected. This story has 2 more acts, and Act 2 will test everything you think you know about justice and mercy. Hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming. Lizzy made it home by midnight. Paid Mrs. Patterson the $45 she owed. Account balance now, $349.67. Sophie was asleep, curled up in her sleeping bag on the air mattress. One arm wrapped around her stuffed rabbit. Safe, healthy, alive. Lizzy kissed her forehead. Temperature check. Normal. She should sleep. Her body screamed for it. Right knee swollen to twice its normal size. Shoulder muscles knotted. Every step felt like walking on broken glass. But sleep wouldn't come. At 2:17 a.m., she sat on the apartment floor, laptop open. The glow painting her face blue in the darkness. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. Dr. James Mitchell, Portland Metropolitan Hospital. The screen flooded with results. Dr. James Mitchell named Chief of Cardiology at Portland Metropolitan Hospital. Mitchell-Hartley Foundation announces $200 million expansion for medical research. Dr. Mitchell steps down from insurance consulting practice. That last headline. She clicked it. The article was dated 3 years ago, October 2021. After 15 years consulting for major insurance companies, Dr. James Mitchell announced his departure from insurance review boards, citing ethical concerns about profit-driven healthcare decisions. Mitchell, who had been one of the industry's most prominent consultants, stated that he could no longer participate in a system that prioritized cost containment over patient care. The announcement sent shockwaves through the medical insurance industry. Something clicked in Lizzy's brain, a connection forming like ice crystals spreading across glass. Insurance consulting. 3 years ago. Ethical concerns. She stood, knees screaming, across the apartment to the drawer beside the microwave, the one she hadn't opened in 4 months. Medical bills, thick enough to stop a bullet. On top, the letter, the one she'd memorized, the one that haunted her dreams. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. Insurance claim denial. Date, November 8th, 2021. Patient, Sophie Bennett, age 4. Diagnosis, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Treatment requested, experimental protocol CAR-T cell therapy. Cost, $187,000. And at the bottom, the signature she'd stared at until the ink blurred. Dr. James Mitchell, consulting physician. She looked at the laptop. The photo in the search results. Professional headshot. Gray hair. Expensive suit. Those eyes. Then back to the rain-soaked face in her memory. The man she'd dragged through 6 blocks of hell. The blue-gray lips. The expensive watch-catching streetlight. Recognition crashed over her like the storm itself. Oh, God. The words came out as a whisper. Oh, God, no. She sat back down on the floor, letter in one hand, laptop in the other, the 2 pieces of her nightmare connecting. She read the letter again, for the 1,000th time, but now the words meant something different. After careful review of the case file for Sophie Bennett, age 4, experimental treatment request for acute lymphoblastic leukemia, I must recommend denial of coverage. While the experimental protocol shows promise, the success rate does not justify the extraordinary cost when standard treatment options remain available. Approved treatments offer adequate survival probability within reasonable cost parameters. Adequate survival probability. Reasonable cost parameters. The clinical language of a man deciding her daughter wasn't worth the money. Her hands shook harder. Emotional cascade building like a wave. Rage first. Pure and hot. He decided my daughter wasn't worth the cost. Adequate survival probability. She's not a probability. She's Sophie. Then disbelief. Cold and shocking. I saved him. I carried him through a hurricane. I lost my job. For him. Bitter irony followed. Sharp enough to draw blood. He was drowning in rain because his expensive car broke down. I was drowning in debt because he checked a box. And finally, confusion. The worst part, why did he leave insurance consulting? Ethical concerns? 3 years ago? Right after Sophie's case. She typed with shaking fingers. Dr. James Mitchell Insurance Denials Controversy. More articles appeared. Patient advocacy groups. Medical ethics forums. One article from a healthcare watchdog site. Dr. Mitchell's departure from insurance reviews left many questions unanswered. Insiders report he'd become increasingly distressed by denial quotas, allegedly keeping a private list of cases that haunted him. Some sources suggest specific cases triggered his resignation, though Mitchell has never commented publicly on which denials led to his ethical crisis. Lizzy stared at the screen. Was Sophie one of them? Did he remember her daughter's name among the hundreds of cases he'd reviewed? Did he even know that the waitress who saved his life was a mother whose letter he'd read 3 times before checking the denial box? The questions spiraled. No answers. Just the weight of cosmic irony crushing her chest. She'd saved the man who nearly killed her daughter. Dr. James Mitchell woke to the sound of machines beeping. Hospital room. Private suite. For lines in his arm. The smell of antiseptic and the rough cotton of hospital sheets against his skin. Dr. Sarah Abrams sat in the chair beside his bed, laptop open, looking exhausted. James, thank God, you're stable now. His throat felt raw. Voice came out as a croak. The meeting? The Hong Kong investors. We postponed. They agreed to wait 24 hours. The deal's still possible. Relief flooded through him. Then confusion. How did I get here? Abrams leaned forward. That's the remarkable part. A waitress from Riley's Diner. She carried you 6 blocks through the worst storm Portland's seen in 15 years. She saved your life, James. A waitress? His brain was still foggy from hypothermia, from whatever drugs they'd given him. What's her name? Abrams checked her notes. Lizzy. Just Lizzy. She wouldn't give her last name, refused photos, left before we could thank her properly. She was terrified of visibility. Mitchell tried to sit up. Abrams pushed him back down, gently. Find her. I need to thank her. We're trying. Riley's Diner on Burnside. But there's a complication. Abrams paused. The manager says she was fired for leaving her shift. Fired? The word came out sharp. For saving my life? That's what he said. Mitchell's mind cleared instantly. The fog burning off. Get me the diner's information. I'll call them myself. She lost her job because of me. I need to make this right. James, you need to rest. Sarah. His voice was firm. Bored voice. The voice that made decisions and expected them followed. She lost her job because of me. I need to make this right. Abrams studied him, then nodded. I'll get you the information, but you're staying in bed until the cardiologist clears you. After she left, Mitchell lay in the darkness thinking. A waitress, working class, probably living paycheck to paycheck, and she'd risked everything to save him. He reached for his phone, started making calls. Mitchell couldn't sleep. Guilt wouldn't let him. He called hospital IT. Board member privileges meant he could access certain records. Employment verification for potential foundation grants. Technically, I need employment records for Riley's Diner on Burnside, specifically for an employee named Lizzy. Last name unknown. 20 minutes later, the file arrived. Elizabeth Lizzy Bennett, age 32, employed 14 months. Bennett. The name hit him like a physical blow. He searched on his phone. Elizabeth Bennett, Portland, Oregon. Social media was minimal. Privacy settings high. Nothing useful. Then he found it. Buried in search results. A GoFundMe campaign from 3 years ago. Help Sophie fight leukemia. My daughter Sophie was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia at age 4. She needs experimental treatment that insurance denied. Please help us save her life. His stomach dropped. Amount raised. $187,000 from 2,400 donors. Updates chronicled the journey. Treatment started. Sophie responding well. Treatment successful. She's in remission. Thank you to everyone who believed in us. Bennett. Sophie Bennett. 4 years old. Leukemia. He pulled up the hospital system on his laptop. Board access meant he could search patient records. Sophie Bennett, date of birth. March 15, 2017. The medical history loaded. Diagnosed October 2021. Experimental treatment December 2021 to March 2022. Remission status maintained. Mother Elizabeth Bennett. Insurance claim denial November 8, 2021. Consulting physician Dr. James Mitchell. He stared at the screen. Blood draining from his face. The room tilting. I reviewed hundreds of cases that year, he whispered to the empty room. I don't remember specific names anymore. But this one, he pulled up his old consultant files. The ones he'd kept. The ones he couldn't bring himself to delete, even though looking at them felt like touching a live wire. Found Sophie's case. Open it. His own notes stared back at him. Mother's letter particularly compelling, but company policy clear. Experimental therapies exceed cost-benefit threshold unless survival probability exceeds 60%. This protocol shows only 40% 5-year survival. Recommend denial. He remembered now. Board meeting. 47 cases that week. Pressure from the company to maintain denial rates above 70%. Bonuses tied to cost containment. Sophie Bennett had been case number 32. 8 minutes. That's how long he'd spent deciding. 8 minutes to read the file. Read the mother's desperate letter. Check the denial box. Move to the next case. And now, 3 years later, that mother had dragged him through a hurricane to save his life. The waitress who saved my life is the mother whose daughter I almost killed. James, what's wrong? You look. The waitress, Lizzy. Her daughter was one of my cases. I denied her insurance claim 3 years ago. Abram stopped in the doorway. What? Sophie Bennett. Leukemia. I recommended denial. The mother raised the money herself. $187,000 through crowdfunding. Silence stretched between them like a chasm. And she saved your life anyway? Abram's voice was barely a whisper. Knowing who you are? She doesn't know. I don't think she recognized me. It was dark, raining. I was hypothermic. She hasn't connected it yet. Abrams sat down heavily. What are you going to do? I don't know. His voice cracked. I left insurance consulting because of cases like hers. I couldn't live with the person it was making me become. But leaving doesn't undo the damage. James, you were doing a job within a broken system. You can't carry every case. But I do carry them, Sarah. The words came out fierce. Desperate. 3 cases especially. Sophie Bennett was one of them. A 4-year-old girl. Her mother wrote about her favorite color, purple. Her laugh. Her dream of being a veterinarian. And I spent 8 minutes deciding she wasn't worth the cost. The machines beeped. The hospital hummed. Outside the window, Portland prepared for morning. And then, Mitchell continued, when I was dying in the rain, that same mother spent an hour dragging me to safety. Lost her job. Destroyed her knee. For me. Abrams had no words. What do you say to that? What comfort exists for that level of moral reckoning? What do you want to do? She finally asked. I want to make it right. Mitchell looked at her. Eyes red. Face haggard. But I don't think there's a way to make this right. The silence that followed held the weight of 3 years of debt. 3 years of struggle. And 1 hour of grace in a storm that should have killed him. Outside, somewhere in Portland, Lizzy Bennett sat on an apartment floor, holding the same realization. And between them stretched a question neither could answer. What do you do when mercy and justice collide? Lizzy woke at 8 a.m. to sunlight stabbing through the broken blinds. 4 hours of sleep. Not enough. Never enough. Body inventory. Right knee swollen to twice its size. Shoulder muscles screaming. Every breath reminded her of muscles she'd used carrying a man who weighed 60 pounds more than her through 6 blocks of hell. Sophie was at school. Mrs. Patterson had taken her. Another $45 Lizzy didn't have. Her phone buzzed with texts. Marcus from a diner. You're on the news. The local station ran your story. Diane the nurse. Everyone's talking about you. Mystery waitress saves board member. They're calling you a hero. And Eddie. Lizzy Hospital called. They want your contact info. I didn't give it. But corporate's pissed I fired you. They want you to call them. PR nightmare. She checked her bank account. $304.67. Mrs. Patterson's payment plus she'd bought Sophie emergency shoes last night. The ones that couldn't wait. Rent due in 8 days. $1,200. Still short. $895.33. Electricity disconnect notice. 3 days. The math was brutal. Even if Riley's took her back, she was 2 weeks behind on everything. But that wasn't why she was getting dressed. She needed to find out if Mitchell remembered Sophie's case. Needed to hear him say it. Needed to look him in the eye and see if he carried any of the weight that had crushed her for 3 years. She took the bus to Portland Metropolitan Hospital. Every step on her blown, and he felt like nails driven through bone. At reception, she almost turned around. "I'm here to see Dr. James Mitchell." The nurse looked up, eyes widened. "Are you family?" "I'm the person who brought him in last night." The nurse stood, actually stood. "You're the waitress." "Oh my God, everyone's been trying to find you." Within minutes, the lobby erupted. Dr. Abrams appeared. Hospital PR, security chief, all converging on Lizzy like she was the story instead of the person trying to stay invisible. "Miss Bennett, we've been hoping you'd come back. Dr. Mitchell has been asking for you." Lizzy's stomach dropped. "He knows my name?" Abrams smiled. "He wanted to thank you personally. He's in room 412. I can take you. I need to see him alone." Something in her voice made Abrams pause. Made her look closer at this waitress who'd carried a board member through a hurricane. Made her see past the cheap clothes and swollen knee to the steel underneath. Of course, room 412, 4th floor. The elevator ride felt like ascending to an execution. Internal voices battling. Voice 1, confront him. Make him remember Sophie. Make him see what he did. Voice 2, walk away. Take any apology money and leave. You need rent. Voice 3, her mother's voice. Look him in the eye. Let him see you. The hallway to room 412 stretched like a tunnel. Her footsteps echoed. The door was partially open. She heard his voice on the phone. "Yes, I want the full employment records. I need to understand her situation completely before." He was researching her. Of course he was. Powerful men always gathered information before negotiations. She knocked. "Come." Dr. James Mitchell sat in the hospital bed, for line still attached, but laptop open. Flowers from board members covered every surface. Fruit baskets. Get well cards. The room of someone important. Someone whose life mattered to powerful people. He saw her and immediately tried to stand. "Miss Bennett, please come in." Lizzy stayed in the doorway. "You know my name. I asked the hospital to find you. I needed to thank you. You saved my life. You already know I'm not here for thanks." Mitchell paused. Read her body language. The way she held herself in the doorway like she might run. The way her hands clenched. "You figured out who I am." Lizzy stepped inside. Closed the door. The click echoed. Dr. James Mitchell, Chief of Cardiology, former insurance consultant. You reviewed claim denials for Blue Cross Blue Shield Health First and United Medical between 2015 and 2021. Mitchell sat back down. "Yes, Sophie Bennett." Her voice was steady. "Hard. Age 4. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Experimental treatment request. November 8th, 2021. His face changed. The color drained. "I remember." "You remember." Lizzy moved closer. "How nice for you. Do you remember how long you spent deciding my daughter's life wasn't worth the cost?" 8 minutes. His voice was quiet. "I spent 8 minutes reviewing her case." 8 minutes. "I reviewed 47 cases that week. Company policy required 70% denial rate. I was paid $5,000 per day to put a price on children's lives." Yes. The honesty shocked her, derailed the rage she'd been building. She'd expected excuses, justifications, bureaucratic language about policies and procedures. Not this. not simple admission. Mitchell continued, voice steady, but something breaking underneath. I could tell you I was following policy, that the system is designed to make doctors complicit, that I was just doing my job. All of that is true, and none of it matters. No, it doesn't. I read your letter 3 times. You wrote about Sophie's favorite color, purple, her laugh, her dream of being a veterinarian. And I checked the denial box and moved to the next case because I had 46 more files to review before end of business. Lizzy felt her legs weaken, found a chair, sat before she fell. Do you know what happened after your denial? You raised $187,000 through crowdfunding. Sophie got the experimental treatment. She's in remission now, age 7, 2nd grade. You've done your research. I found out at 4:30 this morning. I pulled my old consulting files. I couldn't sleep. Neither could I. Silence stretched between them. Not comfortable, but not hostile either. Something more complex. The silence of 2 people staring at an impossible situation. Lizzy spoke first. I'm $43,000 in debt from paying for what you denied. I worked 2 jobs, before I lost one saving your life. My daughter asks why we can't afford new shoes when she outgrows them every 3 months. I calculate every purchase down to the cent because your signature cost us everything. I know. Do you? Do you really? Her voice rose. Because you're in a private suite with flowers and fruit baskets. Your watch costs more than my annual rent. You don't know what it's like to choose between electricity and groceries. You're right. I don't. So why did you leave insurance consulting? The article said ethical concerns. What happened? Did one too many mothers' letters finally get through? Yes. Which one? Mitchell looked at her. Really looked at her. Yours. And 2 others. A 6-year-old boy named Marcus Torres. A 16-year-old girl named Amanda Chin. 3 cases I've carried for 3 years. He stood, walked to the window. Couldn't look at her for this part. Marcus died. His mother couldn't raise the money in time. Amanda's family went bankrupt, lost their home. She's in remission, but they're homeless now. And Sophie, I thought she died too, until I saw your GoFundMe last night. So you left because of guilt. I left because I couldn't look at myself anymore. Mitchell turned back to her. I've spent 3 years throwing money at medical foundations, trying to fix a system I helped destroy. Penance disguised as philanthropy. Why didn't you come find me? Find us? If you felt so guilty, why not? Because I didn't know if you'd survived. His voice cracked. I couldn't face finding out I'd killed her. So I ran. I built a foundation, approved grants, changed policies. I told myself I was helping people. But I was just hiding from what I'd done. Lizzy's legs gave out. She sat down hard. I spent an hour dragging you through the worst storm in 15 years. I lost my job. I destroyed my knee. For you. And I didn't know. I didn't know you were the one who. Would you have saved me if you'd known? The question hung in the air like smoke. Long silence. I don't know. Her voice was barely a whisper. God help me, I don't know. Mitchell crossed the room, sat in the chair across from her, equal level, no power dynamic. Miss Bennett, Lizzy, I can't undo what I did. I can't get you back 3 years of debt and struggle, but I can try to make partial amends. I don't want your money. I know, but your daughter deserves a mother who isn't drowning. You deserve to live without choosing between medicine and rent. Lizzy stood. I need to think. I can't be here. Before you go, there's something else you should know. She stopped at the door. What? The hospital board wants to investigate how you knew hypothermia protocols, how you knew to check my pulse rate, respiration, give medical commands to nurses. Dr. Abrams asked me if you had medical training. What did you tell her? That I was unconscious and couldn't remember. But they're going to ask you directly. I took EMT courses years ago. Basic first aid. That's not what Beverly, the ER nurse, said. She said you gave specific protocols, used medical terminology, assessed me like a trained professional. Lizzie's hand was on the door handle. What's your point? My point is you're brilliant. You have medical knowledge far beyond EMT training, and someone's going to figure that out. She turned back. One last moment of honesty. I was pre-med. 2 years at Portland State. Sophie got diagnosed. I dropped out to care for her and work full-time. Medical school requires money I don't have and time I can't spare. What if you could have both? Life doesn't work that way for people like me. What if it could? Lizzy opened the door. Goodbye, Dr. Mitchell. I'm glad you're alive. I think. She left. Mitchell sat in the empty room, surrounded by flowers and fruit baskets and the weight of 8 minutes that had destroyed a life 3 years ago. Outside in the hallway, Lizzy leaned against the wall, knees screaming, heart pounding, the smell of hospital antiseptic mixing with her own nervous sweat. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and she realized this wasn't over. This was just beginning. The call came while Lizzy was trying to explain to Sophie why they couldn't afford the class field trip to the Science Museum. Miss Bennett, this is Dr. Sarah Abrams from Portland Metro. We'd like to discuss your medical response to Dr. Mitchell's emergency. Could you come in tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Lizzy's stomach dropped. She moved to the kitchen, out of Sophie's earshot. I already told you. I took EMT courses years ago. We reviewed security footage and Beverly's report. You demonstrated knowledge consistent with advanced medical training. We need to verify you have no practicing license for liability reasons. I don't have a license. I'm a waitress. Then where did you learn? I read a lot. Lizzy kept her voice steady. Medical textbooks, articles. I wanted to be a doctor once. Life had other plans. Pause on the other end. Abrams considering. I see. Still, we need documentation for our records. Bring any certification you have. 10 a.m. tomorrow. The line went dead. Lizzy stood in her kitchen, staring at the phone. They were building a liability file. She understood the game now. If Mitchell had died, they'd sue her for practicing medicine without a license. Since he lived, they wanted to make sure she couldn't sue them. Everyone protecting themselves. Nobody protecting her. An hour later, another call. Riley's Diner Corporate HR. Miss Bennett, this is Janet from Riley's Corporate. We've seen the news coverage. We'd like to discuss your employment status. Eddie fired me. Eddie exceeded his authority. We'd like to offer you your position back with a $2 per hour raise and a formal apology. Lizzy laughed. Bitter sound. Why? Yesterday, I was fired for leaving shift. Today, I'm valuable. The publicity has been significant. Customers are asking about you. Eddie's decision reflects poorly on the Riley's brand. So you want me back as a PR move. We want to make this right. I'll think about it. She hung up, realized even this is about optics. I'm not a person to them. I'm a headline. The emails arrived while Sophie was doing homework at the kitchen table. Final notice. Payment of $847 due October 31st or legal action will be taken. Your remaining balance of $28,340 will be referred to collections. The predatory lender she'd borrowed from 3 years ago, when GoFundMe was enough. When Sophie needed treatment now, and the banks laughed at her loan application. 28% interest. Payments that never touched principal. Debt that grew like cancer. Next email. Rent past due grace period November 1st. Pay $1,200 by November 3rd or eviction proceedings begin. Her landlord. Understanding only went so far. Business was business. Text message. Service disconnection scheduled October 27th without payment of $287. The electric company. 3 days. Then darkness. Lizzy opened a notepad. Created triage list. Priority 1. Electricity $287. Needs lights for Sophie. Priority 2. Rent $1,200. Needs shelter. Priority 3. Predatory loan, $847. Can negotiate or let go to collections. Current funds, $304.67. Total needed, $1,487. Shortfall, $1,182.33. Even with Riley's job back at $16 per hour, plus tips averaging $25 per hour, roughly $1,900 monthly. She was 2 weeks behind. 2 weeks she didn't have. The math was crushing. Always crushing. 6:30 p.m. Sophie came into the living room, saw Lizzie's swollen knee elevated on a pillow. "Mommy, why are you hurt?" "I helped someone last night. A man who was sick in the rain." Sophie's eyes went wide. "Did you save him?" "Like a superhero. I just did what anyone should do. Mrs. Patterson said you're on the news. She showed me on her phone. Everyone at school was talking about it." "What were they saying?" "That my mom's a hero." Sophie climbed onto the couch, careful of the knee. "Emma's mom said you should get a medal." "I don't need a medal, baby." "But the man you saved was important, right? A doctor." Sophie looked at her with those enormous brown eyes. Too wise for 7 years old. "So maybe you can help us?" Lizzie's heart broke. Actually broke. "What do you mean?" "I heard you on the phone. About the rent. And the electric." Sophie's voice was small. "Maybe the doctor can help since you helped him?" "It doesn't work that way, sweetheart." "Why not? You said if we help people, they help us back." Lizzie had no answer. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that the world isn't fair? That heroism doesn't pay bills? But the man she saved was the same man who decided Sophie wasn't worth the cost 3 years ago? You don't. You lie. You protect them from the truth as long as you can. He might help, baby. We'll see. But don't worry about the rent. Okay? That's Mommy's job. Sophie hugged her. You're the best, Mommy. After Sophie went to bed, Lizzie sat on the apartment floor, surrounded by papers. Medical bills, rent notice, disconnect notice, loan statement, laptop open to job listings, emotional inventory, job, technically reoffered, but it felt exploitative. A PR move, using her story for headlines. Rent, impossible without 2 weeks' earnings. She didn't have time to accumulate. Health, knee needed medical attention she couldn't afford. Pride, shattered by Sophie's innocent expectation that kindness equals reciprocity. Anger, at a system that made heroism unaffordable. Guilt at Mitchell, at herself for saving him, at the universe for cosmic injustice. 11:30, 8 p.m. The breaking point came. 7 minutes of ugly, violent crying. Not sad crying, rage crying. Tears for the career lost. Dreams deferred. Daughter who deserved better. System designed to crush people like her. Sobs that tore through her body like convulsions. Sounds she didn't recognize as her own voice until she heard Sophie's bedroom door creak. Small footsteps. "Mom?" Lizzie wiped her face fast. "Too late." "I'm okay, baby. Go back to bed." Sophie climbed into her lap. Small arms around her neck. "You're sad." "Just tired. When I was sick, you told me tired is just brave taking a break." Sophie pulled back, looked at her seriously. "Are you being brave?" "Every day." "The doctor you saved, is he nice?" "I don't know yet. I think he will be." Sophie yawned. "You have good instincts. That's what you always tell me." Sophie fell asleep in her arms. Small body trusting, warm. Lizzie sat on the floor, holding her daughter, and realized, I didn't save Mitchell for gratitude or reciprocity. I saved him because the alternative was becoming someone who walks past suffering. But God, I wish the universe didn't make doing the right thing so expensive. Lizzie couldn't sleep. Put Sophie in bed. Returned to the floor. Laptop glowing. She opened her email. Started typing. To Dr. James Mitchell. Subject. Blank. Dr. Mitchell, you asked if I would have saved you if I'd known who you were. I've thought about it for 12 hours. The answer is I don't know, and that terrifies me. Because the person I want to be would have saved you anyway. But the person I am, drowning in debt, exhausted, desperate, might have walked past. You said you want to make partial amends. I don't want your money, but I do want you to understand what your 8 minutes cost. Not just the $43,000 debt, not just the years of struggle. The cost was believing the system works. The cost was my faith that educated, powerful people use that power with compassion. You took that from me in 8 minutes, and I can't get it back. So no, I don't want your money. I want you to live with what you did. I want you to remember that when my daughter asks why we can't afford new shoes, it's because you decided she wasn't worth the cost. I saved your life because my mother taught me that everyone deserves mercy, even people who wouldn't grant it to others. I hope you use that life for something better than you used it before. Lizzy Bennett. She read it 3 times, cursor blinking, then deleted it, sending that would feel good for 5 minutes, but it wouldn't change anything. And part of her, small, tired, desperate, knew she might need his help. Hating that truth didn't make it less true. 2:47 a.m. Unknown number calling. She let it go to voicemail. Listened after. Miss Bennett, this is Dr. Mitchell. I know it's late. I've been thinking about our conversation, about what I said regarding medical school. I meant it. The Mitchell Hartley Foundation has a scholarship program for displaced medical professionals, people who left medicine due to financial hardship or life circumstances. I'd like to nominate you. No strings, no publicity, just a chance to finish what you started. Think about it. And regardless of your decision, I've set up a fund to cover Sophie's medical monitoring expenses for the next 5 years. It's the least I can do. My assistant will contact you tomorrow with details. Again, no strings, just partial amends for an unpayable debt. Good night. Lizzy listened 3 times. Couldn't decide if she was furious or grateful. Settled on both. I'm both. She sat on the floor until dawn, surrounded by bills and impossible choices. While somewhere across Portland, Dr. James Mitchell lay awake in a hospital bed, carrying the same weight from opposite sides. The storm had passed, but the reckoning was just beginning. 15 years earlier, Lizzy Bennett was 17 years old and riding the Portland city bus with her mother. Sarah Bennett sat beside her in nurse's scrubs, exhausted from a double shift, but smiling because her daughter held an acceptance letter. Mom, did you see? Portland State Pre-Med Program. Sarah pulled her close. I'm so proud, baby girl. You're going to be an amazing doctor. I want to be like you, help people. Her mother's smile changed, became something deeper, more serious. Remember this, Lizzy. Medicine isn't about money or prestige. It's about seeing people who everyone else looks past. That's where real healing happens. 3 rows back, a man clutched his chest, collapsed. Everyone froze, except Sarah Bennett. Give me room. Someone call 911. She moved with absolute certainty. CPR, clear commands, precise compressions. The bus driver pulled over. Paramedics arrived 7 minutes later. The man lived. Sarah stepped back like it was nothing, returned to her seat, held her daughter's hand. How did you stay so calm? Lizzy asked. Training, practice, and refusing to let fear make you small. Sarah looked at her. You have that in you too. Flash forward 5 years. Sarah Bennett's funeral. Rain falling. Lizzy standing at the grave. 22 years old. Pregnant with Sophie. No father present. Dropping out of pre-med second year of college. Standing there thinking, I'm sorry, Mom. I tried. Life had other plans. Present day. 8:30 a.m. Lizzy on the bus to Portland Metropolitan Hospital. That memory crystallizing her choice. Her mother had faced fear and moved anyway. Had seen people everyone else looked past. Had taught Lizzy that real healing happens in the invisible spaces. Now Lizzy faced her own impossible choice. The office smelled like coffee and paper and hand sanitizer. Lizzy brought her EMT certification from 6 years ago, basic level, and her transcript from Portland State showing pre-med coursework. Dr. Abrams reviewed them carefully. This explains some of your knowledge, but not all. You use terminology and protocols beyond basic EMT. I read medical journals, textbooks. I keep up with emergency medicine because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop wanting to be a doctor even after I left school. Why did you leave? The question hit harder than expected. I got pregnant. Father wasn't in the picture. My mother died. I needed to work, not study. So I dropped out. I see. Abrams set down the papers. And you never considered returning? With what money? Student loans? Working full-time with a child? Abrams studied her. Long moment. Then, you saved Dr. Mitchell's life with knowledge you taught yourself. Knowledge you've maintained despite having every reason to let it go. That's remarkable. Is that all you needed? For liability purposes? Actually, no. I have a different question. Abrams leaned forward. Dr. Mitchell mentioned you might be interested in our scholarship program. Lizzy stiffened. He had no right to. He didn't tell me your history with him, just that you were an exceptional candidate. But I did some research after our call yesterday. I found Sophie's case. I found the denial. And I found Dr. Mitchell's signature. Silence. I'm not Dr. Mitchell. Abrams' voice was gentle. I don't agree with what he did. The system that pressured him to maintain denial quotas is unconscionable. But I do agree with him about one thing. You have a gift, and it's being wasted. The scholarship covers tuition, books, living expenses. You need to attend full-time, but there's a stipend, $2, $800 monthly. You could afford childcare, rent, life. Finish your degree in 3 years. Medical school after that, also funded. Why? Why would you offer me this? Abrams smiled. Sad smile. Knowing smile. Because 15 years ago I was you. Single mother. Dropped out of medical school. Worked as a medical transcriptionist. A doctor I'd never met saw my transcription notes. I'd caught errors. Made clinical observations. He found me. Offered me a scholarship. Said I was too smart to be invisible. I'm paying it forward. But taking money from Mitchell's foundation, after what he did, the money doesn't belong to Dr. Mitchell personally. It belongs to the foundation, which has 12 board members. I'm one of them. This is MY nomination, not his. Lizzy's hands gripped the chair armrests. What's the catch? No catch. But there is a choice. If you accept, you'll need to quit Riley's, trust the stipend, leap into uncertainty. And you'll need to do it while carrying $43,000 in debt and raising a 7-year-old alone. It's terrifying. Abrams slid a folder across the desk. Or you can stay at Riley's, keep surviving, and wonder what if for the rest of your life. That's not a fair choice. It never is. But that's the choice. Full-time medical school starting January, or stay invisible. Lizzy stood, legs shaking. I need to think. Abrams handed her the folder. Application. Deadline is November 15th. 3 weeks. Think fast. Lizzy's standing at a crossroads. On one side, safety, survival, Riley's diner. On the other, risk, uncertainty, medical school funded by the foundation run by the man who nearly killed her daughter. Before she decides, I want to know, do you think she should accept? Do you think she can take help from the system that destroyed her? Or is some money too dirty to touch? Drop your prediction below and smash that subscribe button, because the next 20 minutes contain 3 revelations that will reframe everything. You think this is a story about a waitress saving a billionaire? You're wrong. This is a story about a mother deciding whether mercy requires forgetting or whether justice and grace can coexist. You don't want to miss the climax. Hit subscribe and drop below. Have you ever had to accept help from someone who hurt you? How did you decide? The call came on Tuesday morning, while Lizzy was calculating whether she could afford to keep Sophie in soccer. Miss Bennett, Dr. Mitchell has requested you attend today's board meeting. 11 a.m. He says it's regarding your scholarship application. I haven't submitted an application. Dr. Mitchell anticipated that. He submitted a nomination on your behalf. The board will vote today. I didn't authorize. Your attendance isn't mandatory. But Dr. Mitchell believes you should hear what's discussed. He thinks you deserve to see how decisions get made. The line went dead. Lizzy stood in her apartment, staring at the phone. He'd nominated her without permission. Of course he had. Powerful people didn't ask. They decided and informed you later. But something in the assistant's voice. He thinks you deserve to see how decisions get made. Maybe he was trying to give her power. Or maybe he was trying to control the narrative. Either way, she needed to be there. She arrived at 10:55 a.m. Top floor conference room. Mahogany table that probably cost more than her annual salary. 12 board members in suits that screamed money. And at the head of the table, Dr. James Mitchell, looking healthier, but still carrying something heavy in his eyes. He saw her enter, nodded to the empty seat. She stayed standing. The meeting started at 11 o'clock sharp. Mitchell stood. Thank you all for accommodating this emergency session. I'm nominating Elizabeth Bennett for our Displaced Medical Professional Scholarship. He presented her credentials like evidence in a trial, pre-med coursework, EMT certification, self-taught emergency medicine protocols, successful rescue of a hypothermia victim in extreme conditions. Board member number 1, a woman in her 60s. Impressive. What caused her to leave medical education? Single motherhood, family illness, financial hardship. Board member number 2, younger, sharper. Why now? Why after? How many years out of school? 12 years. Mitchell paused, looked directly at Lizzy. And I'll tell you why now. The room went quiet. Because 3 years ago I destroyed this woman's life. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but thoroughly. Murmurs around the table. Confusion. Concern. Mitchell continued, voice steady, but something breaking underneath. In my previous role as insurance consultant, I reviewed her daughter Sophie's case. 4 years old, leukemia, needed experimental treatment. I spent 8 minutes reviewing her file and recommended denial. That denial cost Miss Bennett $43,000 in debt, forced her to crowdfund her daughter's survival, and derailed any hope she had of returning to medicine. Silence. Dr. Abrams stared at him. James, what are you doing? I'm telling the truth. Mitchell's hands gripped the table edge. Because 3 nights ago, when my car broke down and I was dying of hypothermia in the worst storm in 15 years, Miss Bennett, the woman whose daughter I nearly killed, spent an hour dragging me 6 blocks to this hospital. She destroyed her knee, lost her job, risked her life. For me. The room erupted. Board member number 3, Dr. Mitchell. This puts the foundation in a difficult position. If we award her the scholarship, it looks like hush money. It's not hush money. It's restitution. But the optics. I don't care about optics. Mitchell's voice rose. I care about making a catastrophic wrong slightly less wrong. Richard Stern, the CFO. James, we appreciate your candor. But you're asking us to approve a scholarship for someone you personally harmed. That's a conflict of interest. Then I recuse myself from a vote. Let the other 11 members decide. Dr. Abrams stood. I second the nomination, and I'll add my own observation. I've reviewed Miss Bennett's pre-med transcripts. 3.9 GPA. Top 5% of her class. She didn't leave because she wasn't smart enough. She left because life crushed her. This scholarship exists precisely for people like her. Board member number 5. Has Miss Bennett even applied? Everyone turned to look at her. Lizzy stood from her seat in the audience area, walked to the table, every eye following her. No, I haven't. Then, Dr. Mitchell nominated me without my consent. And frankly, I'm not sure I want a scholarship funded by money that comes from denying people like my daughter medical care. Mitchell started to speak. Miss Bennett, please. Let me finish. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. You're all sitting here debating optics and conflicts of interest. But here's what I know. Dr. Mitchell made a terrible decision 3 years ago. He was operating in a system designed to make doctors complicit in suffering. He spent 8 minutes on my daughter's case and decided she wasn't worth the cost. She placed her hands on the mahogany table, leaned forward, and 3 nights ago, I spent an hour saving his life. Not because I'm a saint, not because I forgave him, but because the alternative was becoming someone who walks past suffering, someone who calculates whether people deserve help based on what they've done. She looked directly at Mitchell. You asked me if I would have saved you if I'd known who you were. I've thought about it for 3 days. The answer is I would have, because my worth isn't determined by your worth. My humanity isn't conditional on your deserving it. The board members sat in stunned silence. So here's what I'm saying. I'll accept the scholarship, not as restitution, not as hush money, but as an investment in making sure fewer mothers have to make the choice I made between their dreams and their children's lives. I'm going to become a doctor, and I'm going to fight the system that makes people like Dr. Mitchell choose profits over patients. She stepped back. That's my statement. Vote however you want. 10 seconds of silence. Dr. Abrams broke it. All in favor of awarding the displaced medical professionals scholarship to Elizabeth Bennett? 11 hands rose. Mitchell had recused himself, sat with his hands flat on the table. Motion carries. Miss Bennett, congratulations. Lizzy stood there, stunned, the weight of 12 years suddenly lifting. Mitchell spoke quietly. Thank you all. Miss Bennett, could we speak privately? She nodded. Same view he'd had 3 days ago. Same leather chairs. Same mahogany desk. But everything felt different now. Lizzy stood at the window, looking out at Portland. The storm had passed. Sky clear. City glittering. Why did you do that? The public confession. Mitchell stood beside her. Not too close. Respectful distance. Because you deserve to see me held accountable. Not privately, where I could control the narrative. Publicly, where it's on record. You know that makes it harder for both of us, right? Now, every time someone mentions my scholarship, they'll say I got it because of guilt or scandal. I know, and I'm sorry for that too. But hiding the truth felt like another betrayal. Lizzy turned to face him. What do you want from me, Dr. Mitchell? Forgiveness? Absolution? Nothing. His voice was firm. I want nothing from you. You've already given me more than I deserve my life. Then why the scholarship? Why the medical monitoring fund for Sophie? Why any of it? Because 3 years ago I spent 8 minutes deciding your daughter wasn't worth the cost. I want to spend the rest of my career proving that calculation was wrong. Not just for Sophie. For every patient denied care because someone like me checked a box. Lizzy moved to the desk, sat down. The expensive leather chair felt foreign. I don't forgive you. I want you to know that. I don't expect you to. But I also don't hate you. Not the way I thought I would. Mitchell sat in the chair across from her, equal level. Why not? Because hating you would mean believing you're different from the system. But you're not. You were a cog in a machine designed to crush people like me. And you at least had the courage to step out of the machine, even if it took too long. That's more grace than I've granted myself. Don't mistake my clarity for grace. Lizzy's voice was hard. I'm accepting your help because Sophie deserves a mother who finished what she started. But this doesn't make us even. It doesn't undo the debt or the years of struggle. I know. Good. Because I'm going to medical school. I'm going to become a doctor. And I'm going to spend my career making sure mothers like me don't have to beg strangers on the internet to save their children's lives. That's my justice. That's better justice than I deserve. Lizzy stood to leave, hand on the door handle, then stopped. One more thing. The 3 cases you said you carry. Marcus Torres, Amanda Chin, Sophie Bennett. Yes. What are you doing about the other 2? Mitchell's expression changed. Marcus's mother, I found her. She's part of a patient advocacy group now. I'm funding their legal work against insurance companies. And Amanda's family. I've connected them with housing assistance and medical debt forgiveness programs. Good. Lizzy's voice softened slightly. Because my daughter survived. They deserve to know someone remembers their children too. I'll never forget them. She nodded. Open the door. Then look back one last time. Dr. Mitchell, use your guilt for something useful. That's all I ask. I will. The door closed. Mitchell sat in his office alone. City glittering below. Weight still there, but somehow lighter. He pulled out his phone, made a call. This is Dr. James Mitchell. I need to schedule a meeting with the state attorney general. I have evidence of systematic insurance fraud, and I'm ready to testify. Portland State University, medical school orientation, lecture hall filled with students, most of them 10 years younger than Lizzy Bennett. She sat in the third row, backpack beside her, coffee in hand. Small photo of Sophie clipped to her notebook. The professor entered. Distinguished, gray beard. Welcome to Advanced Anatomy. This course will challenge everything you think you know about medicine. Lizzy smiled. Good. The student next to her leaned over. 22 maybe. Nervous energy. You seem confident for first day. I've been waiting 12 years for this. I'm not wasting it. What happened in those 3 months? Lizzy's scholarship stipend paid off her electricity bill, her rent, gave her $2,800 monthly, the first financial stability she'd had in 3 years. She moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood. Sophie started 3rd grade at a school with an actual playground. Real equipment, not broken. Mrs. Patterson still babysat. But now Lizzy could afford to pay her fairly, even give her a Christmas bonus. The $43,000 medical debt? Mitchell's Foundation established a medical debt forgiveness program. Lizzy was the first recipient, but not the last. 83 families freed from medical debt in 3 months. 83 mothers who didn't have to choose between electricity and medicine. Riley's Diner named a sandwich after her, the Lizzy Bennett Special. Half the proceeds donated to medical student scholarships. She never went back to work there. Eddie sent an apology letter. She never answered it. An envelope arrived, hand-addressed. Child's handwriting. Mitchell opened it. Construction paper. Crayon drawing of a waitress carrying a man through rain. Storm clouds. Lighten. But also a sun in the corner. Letter inside. Dear Dr. Mitchell, my name is Sophie. I'm 7. My mom saved your life in the storm. She says you helped her go back to school. Thank you for helping my mom. She's really smart and she's going to be a great doctor. Better than the doctors who said I would die. I didn't die. I'm in remission. Mom says you made a mistake a long time ago, but you're trying to fix it. I think that's brave. My mom says being brave isn't not being scared. It's doing the right thing even when you're scared. I made you this drawing. The person in the rain is my mom. The person she's carrying is you. I hope you're not sad anymore. Your friend, Sophie. P.S. My favorite color is purple. Mom says you knew that from a long time ago. Mitchell sat at his desk, tears streaming. Didn't try to stop them. Dr. Abrams walked in. Saw him. James? You okay? He showed her the letter. She read it. Smiled. Kids have a way of seeing things clearly, don't they? Yes. Yes, they do. 6 months later. Portland Metropolitan Hospital cafeteria. Dr. Abrams having coffee. Reading medical journals. Footsteps? She looked up. Lizzy stood there in medical student scrubs. White coat. Name embroidered. Elizabeth Bennett, MS1. Dr. Abrams, do you have a minute? Lizzy, how's your summer clinical rotation? Intense. Amazing. Exactly what I needed. She sat down. I wanted to say thank you for nominating me, for believing I could do this. You're doing the work. I just opened a door. I saw Dr. Mitchell in the cardiology wing yesterday. We didn't speak, but we nodded. It felt, I don't know, not friendly, but not hostile either. That's progress. For both of you. I still don't forgive him, but I think I understand him better now. This system, it crushes people. Doctors, patients, everyone. Abrams closed her journal. So what are you going to do about it? Lizzy smiled. Change it. One patient at a time. That's why I nominated you. As Lizzy left the cafeteria, she passed the hospital administration office. Press release posted on the bulletin board. Mitchell Hartley Foundation announces class action support for denied insurance claims. Dr. James Mitchell to testify against former employers. She stopped, read it, realized he's not just making amends with money. He's burning down the system that made him complicit. She didn't go back to thank him, but she allowed herself a small smile. Good. Lizzy's journey from invisible waitress to unstoppable medical student took 3 months to begin and will take years to complete. But here's what I didn't tell you at the start. This is story number 32 in my Invisible Heroes investigation. I've documented hundreds of cases of brilliant people working jobs that hide their genius. PhDs washing dishes, former surgeons driving Uber, concert pianists cleaning houses, engineers serving coffee. And every single one has a story that will restore your faith in the invisible people society trains us to overlook. If you made it this far, you're part of the 8% who watch until the end. That means something. It means these stories matter to you as much as they matter to me. Here's how you can help. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like. Comment below with what struck you most about Lizzy's story. YouTube rewards channels when engaged viewers like you take these simple actions. And drop below. What hidden skill do you have that would shock people who only see your job title? I read every comment. Your story might be next. Next week, the homeless man outside Goldman Sachs. What Wall Street didn't know, he was once a partner there, living undercover, gathering evidence of insider trading. His story ends in federal court and changes securities law. You won't want to miss it. And one more thing. Lizzy's story is true. I changed names and identifying details, but the rescue happened. The scholarship happened. The confrontation happened. Sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones we don't have to invent. They're happening all around us. We just have to be willing to see them. Hit subscribe. And remember, your worth isn't determined by your job title. Your humanity isn't conditional on others deserving it. Be like Lizzy. Be stubborn grace. Lizzy Bennett didn't save Dr. James Mitchell's life for gratitude. She saved it because her mother taught her that everyone deserves mercy, even people who wouldn't grant it to others. Mitchell didn't give Lizzy a scholarship for absolution. He gave it because her heroism shamed him into seeing the world clearly for the first time in years. Their story doesn't end with forgiveness or friendship. It ends with two people choosing to be better than the system that broke them. That's not redemption. That's something more complicated. Justice tempered with mercy. Accountability mixed with grace. And sometimes that's the closest we get to making things right. Lizzy's still $15,000 in debt. Mitchell still carries 3 cases that haunt him. Sophie still has quarterly cancer screenings. The system that denied her care still crushes millions of families. But Lizzy's in medical school. Mitchell's testifying against insurance companies. Sophie's thriving. And that's enough. For now. Progress, not perfection. That's all any of us can hope for.